I'm George Phelan. I am married to Jessica, and I'm Kayla's dad. I grew up in West Orange, and I've been living in Essex County my whole life. Growing up, I went to Catholic school my whole life for 12 years, from grade school to high school. I've been to many masses in my time. I was even an altar server in 8th grade. Although my mom didn't go to church much because I went to school, I went to church more than she did. At one point in church, I had connected to Jesus. That was where I was introduced to Jesus there. I was probably 7 or 8 years old, but even then, I understood the sacrifice. I had a heartfelt moment by myself where I said, "I love you, Jesus," and I just felt him there for that moment. And as a little kid, that was just very special. My father passed away when I was 14, and that's when I started to become a little more angry. I started to question a lot of things, especially the relationship between the Bible and the Catholic Church. And I was actually outspoken in my theology classes and challenged some of these lay teachers and priests sometimes, and asking them those very common questions like, why do bad things happen to good people? I learned about traditions and not a lot about my relationship or the personal relationship to God and his nature. My mom had gone into a deep depression after my father and had died, and she didn't pay our bills. We lost our house, and I needed to start working to make money for both of us. So I didn't really think about Jesus or God in that moment at all. And I felt a little lost because where was my direction? I was just living in the now, and just earning money was the only thing. That and diversion was the only thing I cared about. A lot of video games, a lot of times maybe drinking, going out, partying, just chasing excitement in that way. And I also worked in an Irish pub, so I was just living around that life. I couldn't say I didn't feel fulfilled either. I just felt like I was alive, just existing. I didn't think about my purpose or any of that stuff. Sometime in my first job out of college, so I did complete college, and then I met Jessica. We worked at a doctor's office, an infertility clinic. She worked at the front desk, and I worked in the laboratory. While I was working there, she asked me for my space heater, and I was happy to share. Before you know it, we started having lunch together, and things moved on from there. While we were dating, Jessica had called me. It was specifically during one of our harder moments, and she said to me, "I don't know if we can pursue a serious relationship or get married unless you know who Jesus Christ is." And that really, I said, what is she even talking about? What does that even mean? And at the time, I was really bewildered, but it stuck with me a bit. I was understanding that marriage would have been the next logical step, but I was having a hard time doing that because I was living with my mom and taking care of her, and my mom had a lot of medical issues and depression, and I just felt trapped because I didn't know how I could bring somebody into my life like this. I didn't want to bring Jessica down. We would have arguments, and a lot of her anger was coming from the fact that we weren't married yet, and she was living in an apartment on her own. My mom was living with me, and we were stuck. At that point, when I prayed, Jesus told me, "You have to get married. It's going to be hard, yes, but it's got to be done." The ring didn't matter. Where we lived, it didn't matter as long as we were together. I had no other choice, and I wasn't pursuing other people or anything. I knew Jessica was the one. So we got married, and she lived with my mom and I, and things got hard at times. Jessica said to me, "I don't care what happens, but we need to go to a church. We need to go to one church or the other. You can go to the Catholic church where we got married, or you can go to this church that's around the corner from where we live that my aunt's been asking us to go to. Let's go to Skyline." I gave it a try, and in 2017, we came to Skyline. When we came, I was drawn in immediately by the music. That was my favorite thing. And then the people drew me in. just with their warmth and just this kind of happiness that I didn't understand. And then there was this family aspect to it, this community aspect that I never got when I went to my other church. So I started in ministry, and I'm in the production ministry. I started in production, and it was great because I loved the band and I got to be close to the band without actually having to be in the band. My journey to becoming a Christian and getting baptized has been very incremental. I've always been a little reserved, but every time I saw something, I said, wow, this is amazing. I want to stick around. This is amazing too. I want to stick around. The church here has confirmed a lot of my beliefs about consulting Jesus when I was in times of desperation and need. I've trusted him with my marriage. I've trusted him with the friends that I've made. I trusted him on how I could lead my household. I've trusted him on how to raise Kayla when we went to re-engage and applied a lot of the teachings we learned there. I trusted him there. And I got to one point where I was praying, and Jesus came and he said to me, you gotta get baptized. It's the next step. It's very logical. You feel like you belong here. Well, tell everybody about it. When I spoke to Pastor Chris, he really helped me understand things, where he said to me, look, you've shown that you've trusted Jesus for a good part of your life, but have you ever had a personal relationship with him? Have you ever prayed to Jesus one-on-one and say, Jesus, forgive me of the sins I've done, and say to him, I want to follow you? And I said, you know what? I've actually never done that. And it really surprised me because I just never thought of it. I always prayed in a we aspect, almost like me and my family or me and humanity or something. But I never spoke to Jesus as if he was just right there holding my hand. And then I never really, I guess, prostrated myself in front of him and just bowed down. Like I've always said, oh, I need your help, but I never said, you know what, I'm going to do anything you say. And the heart is a really important aspect of what I like to focus on now. I am human, and when things happen in life, a lot of bad things happen in my heart. I go, that's really not the right way to feel, and I know it's not. And now I say, Jesus, please forgive my heart for just jumping to a bad place. Set me on the right track. I know this is not what you want for me. Well, I learned about this verse here, and it really stuck with me because I thought it was an important lesson for all people to know, and especially for me, because God knows everything about you and your heart, and you can't hide it. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. I'm here publicly to tell everybody that I'm saying yes to Jesus, and I will follow him wherever he takes me.